Well, the value of the NTI curriculum in tribal communities, I think, is related to the core competencies that are in the curriculum, but also the specific relevance to the tribal experience with adoption and child welfare. The curriculum itself is so rich in its understanding and communication around child development and the impact of loss and grief and how that operates in the child welfare system. Those losses, that understanding of that loss and the impact of that loss is so important for anyone who's working in child welfare to understand. And it's particularly important in a context where there's a whole culture that has historic trauma and intergenerational grief and loss that has to be understood in the context of how families and children in particular experience the world. And we know that historic trauma gets handed down generation to generation in many forms. And when that's compounded by removal from family or by trauma in family that results in a placement, those things have to be worked out. The curriculum addresses loss and grief in a way that honors tribal experience of intergenerational grief and loss. And so it makes it very relevant to the tribal experience. Everybody who works in tribal child welfare really has to understand that context and to understand what's happening for children and families when children are removed or when children have to leave their families. Sometimes that's necessary, but it's always a traumatic experience, particularly in an environment where families have experienced historic and intergenerational trauma and grief. Well, what we want tribes to know about this curriculum is the careful attention that's been paid to in the construction of the curriculum. Every lesson has been carefully reviewed for relevance to the tribal experience, inclusion of tribal examples, case examples, and exercises. We took great pains to make sure that there's inclusion of a broad range of applications in states, counties, territories, and tribal communities, and it was a pleasure to be part of that. I think the other thing that I would want people to know as they learn about this curriculum, that the time is really worth the effort. There's a lot of material here, but it's extremely valuable, and there's not a lot of curricula out there that treats the tribal issues as respectfully as the NTI curriculum. Well, connection to birth, family, and culture is at the heart of well-being, and one of the things I like best about the NTI curriculum is it really honors the child's reference points for belonging, and that's so important in an extended family culture, because it's not just the birth parent or the people who take care of you, but it's all of your relatives, it's your clan, it's your tribal identity. It's the community that you live in, it's your neighbors, it's your peers and your friends in your school. All of those things are reference points for belonging. And it's the child's own story, the child's own narrative. And that comes so clearly through this curriculum that all of that is important. And it's actually the child's context, their culture, their community that defines what those reference points for belonging are. And so I really have enjoyed the respectful way that this curriculum treats those issues.